Okay, so when we're talking about solutions, there are three different types of calculations that we can perform that kind of describe the strength of the solution, I would say. It's more of a measure of how much of the solute do you have in your solvent. And like I said, we can look at it in three different ways, and each way has its own calculation. And just like solution, solvent, and solute all start with S's and can be a little confusing, all three of these solution calculations start with M's. So we are going to have a mass percent video, a molarity video, and then a molality video. But this one is just going to be mass percent for right now. Now, mass percent should be the most straightforward one. We've done variations of this time and time again. It's kind of like a percent composition, except when you do a mass percent, you're only concerned with the mass of your solutes. That's it. You're not looking at a mass percent of like solvent over solution. We don't care about that. Solute only. So to find the mass percent, you're always just going to take the mass of your solute, divide it by the mass of your solution, times it by 100%. So an example of this would be, what if we had a solution that is prepared by mixing 1 gram of ethanol with 100 grams of water? Calculate the mass percent of ethanol in the solution. So I'm going to go ahead and start out. I'm going to write out all of the things that I have. I've got ethanol and I've got water here, and these are the two things that are going in to make my solution. Therefore, one of them has to be my solute and one of them is my solvent. The only one that I'm concerned with is my solute. So I've got to compare. I've got 1 gram of ethanol, 100 grams of water. I have way more water than I do ethanol, so water is going to be my solvent. So I don't care about it, but I know that I have my mass solute equal to 1 gram, my 1 gram of ethanol. Now, I need to find my mass of solution. But my mass of solution is honestly a little bit harder to figure out here, I think. Because you've got to think of what makes up a solution. A solution is not just made up of the water here, right? Water is just my solvent, but there are at least two parts to every solution. I've got a solvent and a solute. So if you just went down right here and said, oh, well, the other number is 100, so that means I've got 100 grams of solution. That's not true. I have 100 grams of solvent, but I also have 1 gram of solute in this solution. So I need to add those together. And it ends up being 101 grams of solution. So make sure that you don't just pick the numbers and go with it. Sometimes you have to add them together or manipulate them in some way. But then after that, once I found those two values, it's pretty simple to find the mass percent. I'm just going to have 1 gram divided by 100.0 grams times 100%. I'm multiplying and dividing, so 3 sig figs, 4 sig figs, my answer should have 3, and it ends up being 0.990%. So if I made this solution and I wanted to put it in my stock room, I would put 0.990% by mass ethanol. That's what we would write on that solution. So now down here, cow's milk typically contains 4.5% of lactose by mass. Calculate the mass of lactose present in 175 grams of milk. Now, I'd really like it if you'd pause the video and try to do this one by yourself before I work it out. Okay, so this one's a little bit different because I'm looking for a different piece of the puzzle. It already gives me a mass percent, and I've got to work backwards to figure out the mass of my lactose. Now, looking at my lactose inside of milk, lactose is obviously not going to be the solvent. It's going to be my solute. So the mass percent was 4.5%. And I'm just going to plug in. That's going to be equal to the mass of my lactose divided by the mass of my solution. But my solution is my milk, right? And so it already gives that to me. It's 175 grams. And then times 100%. So I can just kind of work this backwards. Divide both sides by 100 to get rid of that times 100%. I'll get 0.045 equals the mass of lactose over 175 grams. Multiply both sides by the 175 grams, and we get our mass of lactose equal to 7.9 grams. Let me double check that really fast. Yes, okay, sorry. For 2 sig figs, because of this right here, that ends up being 7.9. It rounds up. So that would be your answer right there. So I hope that you see that these calculations, these mass percent, are really straightforward and really simple to do.